Java is an object-oriented language, but since Java 8, the language added the ability to write code using another style, which is functional programming. In this style, we write code more declaratively. We concentrate more on what we want to do rather than the state of objects. And functional programming uses Lambda expressions to write code. Hello guys and welcome to Zero Code channel. In today's video, we'll talk about Lambdas in Java. Before we jump to create Lambdas in our editor, let's talk about the when we use them and how. Lambdas can only replace the single abstract method of a functional interface. Just a reminder, a functional interface is an interface that has only one abstract method. Examples: you have supplier, consumer, comparator, predicate. Or you can create your own functional interface depending on your needs. Writing code with Lambdas is stylish and clean, but it comes with a set of rules. Let's first discuss syntax rules of Lambdas in Java and then move to talk about how to use them properly. Hopefully nowadays the IDE will always correct a syntactic error, but it's a good thing to know how to write a Lambda or simply understand why the IDE is highlighting your Lambda syntax error. For this, you need to understand that for Lambda, there are mandatory parts and optional parts. Here we have two Lambdas. The first one contains only the mandatory parts. As you can see, they are the parameter name, the arrow, and a body. The second Lambda contains all the parts we can get. So the optional parts are the type of the parameter, the parentheses, the return keyword, and semicolons and braces. It's a bit tricky sometimes. The optional parts are mandatory. For example, if you have more than one parameter, you must use parentheses. Here this Lambda is not valid because it's missing parentheses. If you are using braces in the body of your Lambda, you must use the return keyword and semicolon. In this example, the Lambda is not valid, it's missing semicolon and return. Now that we know how to write Lambdas, still another important rule to write properly a Lambda. Lambdas allow only the use of final and effectively final variables. Maybe you are wondering what's a final or effectively final variable. A final variable in Java is a variable marked with keyword final, and this means the value of the variable won't change during the runtime. Effectively final variable is a variable that is not marked by final keyword, but we make sure that its value won't change after the creation of the variable. Let's see an example of effectively final variable. Here the variable size, since its creation at line 2, its value has not changed. And the proof for this is that the Boolean variable at line 5 is holding true. And during the two calls of parseDocument and parseImage, size keeps its value. And this is what we call an effectively final variable in Java. I guess we covered so far Lambdas in theory. Let's practice that in our editor and write some code using Lambdas. Here in our main method, let's create a list of pilot nicknames: Phoenix, Maverick, Goose, Iceman, and Rooster. And what I want to do is to print each name of the list using Lambda. For this, I'll use for each method that takes a consumer as argument. Consumer is a functional interface. Its only abstract method is accept. I have all the conditions to use a Lambda here. My Lambda must respect the signature of the abstract method here. It should take an object and return void. I go back to my method and I write my Lambda that takes an object, in our case it will be a string, and then it will return a void, so I'll just use the print of system. I run my code and I get the list of my pilots. Let's try another example with another common functional interface. This time I want to sort my list lexicographically, so I'll use the sort method that takes a comparator. Comparator is a functional interface. Again, I'll respect the signature of its single abstract method, compare, here. So I'll use two parameters and I must return the type int. I go back to my main method, I write my Lambda. I don't forget the parentheses here because I'm dealing with two parameters. I refactor the method that prints the list to make the code cleaner. I run my code and my list is sorted lexicographically, as you can see here. I'll try another example. This time I want my list to be sorted by the lengths of the strings. I'll change the logic of Lambda here. So the Lambda must compare the lengths of strings to order the list. Always I'm returning int. I run my code and I get my list sorted by the lengths of the strings. Our final example will consist of trying to break the rule final or effectively final variable. Again, I'll use my list of pilots nicknames, and I want to add a prefix to their names. It's gonna be, for example, name space colon. I'll print my list again using the consumer as parameter, but this time I'll prefix each name by the prefix I created. I run my program and I get the following result. If I break the rule of final and effectively final variable and I change the value of my prefix, I run my program and I get as expected an exception alerting that the variable used in Lambda must be final or effectively final. Our video comes to its end. I hope it gave you an idea how lambdas are used in Java. Please like and subscribe to help the channel grow, and see you in the next video.